You are watching an MLGA Network live broadcast. The only people for me are the mad ones.
The world is filled with the boring and the barely conscious.
The misery loves company.
But we don't have to live this way.
Jessica and I are here to talk to those the system rejects, to radicals and thought criminals.
The ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but push the boundaries of acceptable discourse.
Those who stare reality in the face and dare it to be different.
History isn't made by the timid, and fun is not had by the perpetually afraid.
We are the mad ones.
So let's get to it.
Welcome to the Mad Ones. I'm your whiskey-swilling, Scots-Irish, bearded, fat, Viking-looking host, Cam Harless. And with me, as always, is your illustrious, beer-sipping, Irish, European mutt hostess, Miss Jessica Green. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm great. That's a really accurate description of me.
I try so hard.
All of my ancestors would feel honored by it.
Well, that is good. I like to. That's what we're here for. To celebrate the ancestors. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Indeed.
And so joining us tonight on this very holy and important day that we take to celebrate the driving of the interdimensional legless serpent monsters from the island of Ireland by a very certain St. Patrick is Miss Jessie from our sister show on the MLGA network, the Voluntary Vixens. How you doing, Jessie?
Good.
Welcome
Got
to
myself some whiskey and I'm good.
Oh, what'd you get? Because I have 3 bottles of Irish whiskey sitting here, and I'm starting with the Redbreast, Sexton single malt.
Yeah.
Well, have you tried it yet?
I've just taken a couple sips of it. It's pretty good so far.
Okay.
Got a
Are
nice
you getting
flavor.
any notes of
She didn't make a
shortbread cookie?
face.
No. You're supposed to sip on it though. You're not trying to chug it all at once. That's the mistake I made when I was young.
It's a sniffer and a sipper.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so tonight we were actually supposed to talk to Ryan Burgett, and he canceled on me last minute. So I was like, let's just drink and have fun. Let's have Jessie on. That way I can say the name Jessie and both of you will answer. Just make it really simple. That way I don't have to do much work at all. That's what's exciting about this. I had a Red Bull.
A whole Red Bull.
A whole one of the little tiny ones, unfortunately.
But we've got a lot of fun stuff planned anyway, so it's fine, Ryan.
Yeah. You're missing
Hi,
out.
Paul.
No, we love it. We love you, Ryan.
To start us off in this month, we have another 2 weeks left of March, which is Women's History Month. And you ladies over at Voluntary Vixens are doing something special for Women's History Month, which I'll let you explain what you're doing right now. I mean, I edit them, but still. Tell us what you're doing to celebrate women.
We are having all male guests on our show. So that's it. We call it Mansplain March. So far it's been pretty fun. We had Robbie the Fire last week, and we just got done with Maj Touré last night. And
nice.
Yeah, we're just letting the men take charge. They introduce us, they start the show for us, and we kind of let them take over, really. And we just kind of ask them questions, and it's fun.
I love it when a man takes charge. That's the best.
Exactly.
I'm just happy that I got to be the first one to take charge. That I have that feather in my cap where I got to immediately go on and talk about how bad women are at podcasting. I mean, is there anything more a man could want?
It's like your show was doing so well. So you needed to get a woman co-host on so that, it would humble you a little and that you wouldn't do so well.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I mean, I was doing great things before you showed up. No.
That's right.
Actually, fun fact, we did talk to someone about actually being a sponsor of our show. We haven't finalized that yet, but you know, we're like legit these days. I mean, this next Tuesday we're having Thaddeus Russell on the show. It's pretty fun.
I'm really
It's gonna be it's gonna be fun. But yeah, so I listened to obviously both of those episodes. Haven't edited Maj Touré yet because I haven't had time. Weeks are wild, man. But I know that Robbie talked about how women need to make more sandwiches.
And they're not funny either.
That's true.
Actually, you know what? Robbie was so nice because, you know, he started off like sounding like such a misogynist. And then like halfway there, he's like, man, did I really do that too good? And we're like,
he went too hard.
Yeah. But I mean, and he's actually such a sweetheart. And, you know, surprise, surprise, he actually does think women are pretty funny. So
that's nice.
I know that shocks everyone here.
Well, I mean, you know,
Cam
I hate women.
the best.
Just hate them.
Yeah, we do. This is a women
And Sean
show.
Astin. I just wanted to say that.
Well, he's kind of a woman too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you said he's a woman, but the reality is he's a bitch.
Yeah.
Let's not confuse terms here. I know it gets hard to go woman, bitch, and to decide which one's correct, but we can get there.
Oh, he's pushing.
I just laugh because I just
trying hard. I'm just gonna drink.
Yeah. We should probably, if we took a drink every time Cam said something really sexist and offensive, we'd be totally sloshed within 20 seconds.
Isn't that the point of the episode?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Maybe that's the drinking game that you guys can play at home. Is every time Cam says something really sexist and offensive, just take a shot.
Anytime Cam says something sexist, or anytime we bag on Sean Astin. Women, how do you say that? Say it. You said
Womixin?
Womixin? Oh my God, I've never heard it pronounced. That's amazing.
I just made that up. I just assume that's what it's pronounced as.
No, that's good. Who would pronounce an X where a vowel obviously ought to be, right? So I think that you did really well.
Isn't it weird though that they changed it? Because it used to be WOMYN. Because they wanted to take the E. Because they wanted to say women, but they didn't want the E there to denote men.
But isn't a Y chromosome a male chromosome? That seems maybe why they changed it.
They don't think rationally, Jessie.
They're women. They're not well read.
I guess not. Obviously.
The gynocracy does not want to have to read books written by man because they will pollute our minds. So
that's right. All that Solzhenitsyn is totally just polluting my mind.
Yeah. It is. We can tell. But we are here to cleanse you of your evil ways.
What is vagina popping? Does anybody know what that is? What they're even talking about?
I know what this is.
Okay, so what is it?
So it's when two vaginas smack together and the vacuum seal that's created between them pops as they separate. I would imagine.
If it's not that, it is now.
I'm not speaking from personal experience, but I would have to imagine that is what a vagina pop is.
Oh God.
There are too many women on this show right now. That's the problem. So I am a little disappointed that Ryan canceled on me because I spent like several days reading up on interdimensional beings, cryptids, all sorts of stuff. And I'm not going to do it today because I've already started drinking and I have facts to spit. I have MK Ultra to mention, and we'll get there. We'll get there eventually when Ryan decides he wants to grace us with his presence once again. But it is St. Patrick's Day, and there's this video that's been going around TikTok that every time I pass it, I stop and listen to it. Do you know the band Hozier?
No.
Vaguely. Wouldn't be able to name a song, but
I think there was a song called Take Me to Church. I think that was theirs, but I'm not sure. Can't tell you that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right, actually.
But
for
there's
sure
this
if it's
video, and it's short, but it's him singing a song. It's an Irish whiskey hymn, essentially. And and Paul just said is
It's
popping the
revolting.
female version of docking. Do you guys know what docking is?
Yes, that's revolting, Paul. You're a revolting person.
He's
I'm not-
He's bringing
and I'm
these
not
things up.
revolting.
So
And I'm not revolting for knowing what it is.
Okay, but it's essentially an Irish whiskey hymn, and I just want to play this just because of my pure appreciation for this. So I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
Guess me this riddle, what beats pipe and fiddle, what's hotter than mustard and milder than cream? What best wets your whistle, what's clearer than crystal, sweeter than honey and stronger than steam? What can make the dumb talk, what can make the lame walk, what's the elixir of life and philosopher's stone? And what helped Mr. Brunel to dig the Thames tunnel, sure wasn't it whiskey from Aldinishone? So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. And boys, I'd half wonder if lightning and thunder was made from the plunder of whiskey, me boys.
Damn.
That's how I feel about whiskey.
You can just have them. You can just have them. My God. When he said thunder, oh my God.
Oh,
We're gonna talk about that during the interdimensional beings episode, by the way.
what was that? Thunder?
No, about what music can carry.
Oh
in it.
yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah. We're just going to leave a bunch of teases for that so that we
Yeah.
can make sure that when Ryan listens to this, he knows that he's going to have to do this. I'm just
He's in
saying.
so much trouble.
He is in big doo-doo. He's in big doo-doo.
That was
but
wonderful. What was that guy's name?
Hosier is the
Hosier.
band.
Okay.
And
Okay.
like
Check
that,
that out.
I've been scrolling through TikTok and I see it, and like this morning, ironically or coincidentally, I hit it again while I was scrolling, and then I was like, I'm going to take a shower, so I just let that play the whole time I was taking a shower, and I'm just like, I just love this. I don't know why I love it as much as I do, but it's like, it feels like I'm an American. I know there are plenty of nerds out there who'll be like, you're not Irish, you're American, but
I mean,
it's like it's in my blood, dude. So when I hear
Yeah.
that, and I whiskey, Scotch, not so much Scotch. I prefer Irish, I think, and I do have a higher amount of Irish blood than I do Scotch blood. So I like Scotch, but I love Irish whiskey.
Yep.
And I love bourbon. Bourbon is like, I'm not saying it's better than Scotch because I feel like I'd get set on fire by some people. But like I was a roll of Pete. But bourbon is so perfect, and it's so American and backwoods and scumbag and beautiful, and I could wax poetic about whiskey. I really could.
so it's interesting that you brought up the role of Pete because I actually have some connection to that. My mother lives in England and is married to an Englishman, and he's an archaeologist.
Ew.
And the
Englishman?
An Englishman, yeah. It's rough. She's half a French though, so
Oh man.
I mean we've already got problems, yeah. So yeah, my mom's half Irish, half French, and my dad's half Irish, half Italian. So I'm technically half Irish, but from different quarters. I don't know what that I'm a mutt, so a mutt is a good description. But so she moved to England and she married an English, and he's an archaeologist. And the burning of the peat moss, the peat rolls is something that people would, as opposed to logs, because England has long since mowed down all of their forests. They would take these dried peat rolls and they would burn them as logs in their fireplaces. And that worked out for a while. But they're, basically ruining their natural resource, just like they did with their forests. So my stepdad, he was actually instrumental in getting a lot of the sentiment toward that changed and getting people to kind of move away from burning the peat moss, which is good because it was kind of like like plundering their natural environment. And I believe since then legislation has gone through, but they were doing it with, just a campaign, just a natural, voluntary, hey, don't do this because of these reasons kind of campaign, not let's try to make it illegal, which, I'm a big fan of because I think that's a better way to do things. But so interesting that you mentioned that because almost no one knows about the peat rolls.
Well, yeah,
and that they're used as a source of energy.
Yeah, and that's how they would dry. That's why Scotch is so peaty and smoky. I have a Scotch in my closet because I have bought too much for the shelves that I had because I love whiskey. And so over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've just been like, I want to try this one. So I have probably 36 bottles-ish of different whiskeys and some vodka.
Nice.
Garbage like that too. But the way that they would dry the barley to make the Scotch was with peat and with peat smoke. And so there are some Scotches out there that are extremely smoky and peated. The one that I have is an Ardbeg 10, and it is the smokiest thing I've ever put in my mouth. I think if you grabbed a bottle of liquid smoke, it wouldn't taste all that much different. Like it's just smoke in your mouth.
That's
which
what
is
I
something
like about Scotch, though. That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
things about it.
And what's cool about it is, it is definitely one of those things that you have to learn to like. You know, holy shit, Cam, you look way different than you sound. I thought you would have mutton chops. No, man, dude, the look I go for when it comes to my whole
Stop
thing.
talking and grow mutton chops.
I don't have to grow mutton chops. I just have to shave part of my face.
I want them coming to the sides of your cheeks and taking on a life of their own.
Well, here's the deal. This is where it stops. This is a natural break. There's nothing that grows above this. But I go for my look. I want you to think when you look at me, maybe he rides a motorcycle, or perhaps he's a general in the Civil War fighting for the Confederacy. These are the two things I want you to think of when you look at me.
I sort of thought when I first looked at you, there's a dude who's ready to go to Valhalla.
Yeah, like I said, fat Viking.
like at the cusp of going to Valhalla.
Like if he walked into Valhalla, none of the other dudes would be like, "Oh, you don't belong here." They would be like, "Oh yeah, okay, hey, welcome, brother."
Well, this is the thing that's interesting about Ireland is, have you heard of the Black Irish?
I've heard of them. I don't know what they are.
Well, that's the thing. People will tell you what they are, but no one actually knows. Some people will say that they're Jews in Ireland. Some people will say that they're gypsies or Irish people with gypsy blood, or Spanish or Sicilian. They'll say a lot of different things.
Okay.
But here's my theory. I think that the Black Irish, which are the dark-haired Irish that live in Ireland, are the original Irish because they have all of the features of someone who lives in rainy weather most of the year, just like the Scots.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at me, who has I have like a couple of percentages, a couple percents of different Nordic Viking areas, but it's very minuscule. But here's the thing. I think that the reason I'm blonde and people, dirty blonde, whatever, and bearded, and people go, "Oh, Viking, oh, fat Thor." I think that that's because the Vikings raped when they got places. And so I do think that the Black Irish are the originals, but the Viking brought in their genetic code and created Ireland as it is today. That is my thought.
There is another theory, though, that maybe the Vikings didn't have to rape as much as they thought they did. It's just
I doubt they had to rape. I mean, do you look at me? Do I look like I have to rape chicks? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, like if you look at, let's just be real, since we're gonna just shit on people. Look at
the English.
Look at the English. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just, the women were like having to deal with these Englishmen whose teeth were going every direction, weren't taking baths every day, and then they all of a sudden these like svelte, like blonde
Danes.
guys with beards that could actually
Mhm.
grow facial hair and had, I'm sure that helped a little bit when you're comparing those two.
One interesting thing about Vikings is that they have found skulls of ancient Vikings, and they find these ridges in their teeth that are vertical across their teeth. And for a while, people were trying to figure out why these were there. And they came to the conclusion that the Vikings, in order to look particularly ferocious in battle, would actually take a file to their teeth and then put black inside of it. That would just, yes, it would hurt. And if you saw someone walking up to you with an axe that had that, you'd be like, okay, I give up. I'm done. If he can do that, I'm not screwing around with this dude. But yeah, so the Black Irish, that's my thing. I do think it was
Viking King. Yes,
Vikings.
Did you know that Bluetooth, the technology, is named after an old Viking king?
Harold Bluetooth.
Amazing.
Yep.
We was Vikings.
We was Vikings.
And it could be like, how Genghis Khan is, credited with being like
everyone's great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, it could be that Vikings might be the white people's Genghis Khan in a sense, because they did travel all over the world. It's not because they were always raping and pillaging.
The white people's Genghis Khan. I will point out, if any of you have ever seen a single picture of my children, look at them and tell me that those Viking-ass genes don't obliterate anything that they touch.
Those babies are from the mountains Caucasus.
I mean, those boys. I mean, one of them. That's the thing. Our last baby finally came out brunette. All the rest of them, they started out a little brunette like my wife, and then, bam, blonde babies. With it, Ezra is a straight up towhead, very, very, very blonde. And then the rest of them just have the exact same hair color as I do. And 1, 2, 3, right now 4 of them have my eye color exactly.
I'm glad you're putting so many babies into the world, because some of us aren't doing so hot at that. So you're like putting out extra, which, we appreciate.
Thank you for that.
I think Hitler would probably be happy with me as well.
Oh, shit.
Oh my God.
I didn't necessarily mean it like that. I just meant from an infertility aspect, but sure.
Oh my God.
Also that.
Oh.
Like that. I just meant from an infertility aspect.
So one of
Sorry. I don't know what the deal is.
It's my own voice too, so I'm like, oh.
Yeah, Devin said that I have the voice of an angel, but when I listen to it, I don't buy it.
He was singing when I came onto the link. He was singing
about whiskey.
I don't know. He did have a gun in his hand though. So
is Mumford & Sons the one where the bass player or whatever decided to be a little bitch? Yeah. Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah. What was his crime again? What was it? It was something.
He liked something. Or wasn't it?
He liked Andy No. Andy No is the journalist who got beat up by the Antifas. He's the basically goes around exposing Antifa, and then Antifa says a bunch of shit about him, and he wrote a book about it. And then this guy from Mumford & Sons, I guess the best bass player, read the book and put out a tweet saying, "Hey, I read this book. It was really interesting." And the world had a shit fit about it. And like, he says he's taking a break from the band. What that means is the band fired him. He got fired from Mumford & Sons for liking a book. That's where we are, people. Sorry.
Yes,
I don't know.
His name is Winston Marshall, and he is, if he quit, he is in fact a bitch.
Well, he rolled over like a bitch.
Yeah. He should never apologize. I mean, that's just the key. Just don't apologize. They don't respect you anyway. So what is it good does it do you to roll over like a little bitch and then get fired? Just at least go out fighting. That's all I'm saying.
And if you read Andino's book, which basically points out and lines out the way that this culture behaves when you think incorrectly,
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened to him. He had the primer. He knew what was happening. He knew that was the time to take a stand and didn't. So regardless of whether he was fired or not, I deem him a bitch.
Yes, dude's a bitch.
I just wonder if like maybe the record label and his bandmates were like, look, just apologize and we'll just move on. Like, I just wonder if they kind of lied to him to get him to do it. And then they just backstabbed him, because that would be even worse. Like,
that's the more likely of the options, actually.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, this has been done so many times. Like, you should know now. Like, that's you're never going to keep your job. It doesn't matter if you apologize.
I was talking about how if you apologize, it doesn't matter. Once they smell blood in the water, they're coming for you. And I was like, can you name a single person who's gone through this whole apology and breaking down that lived, their career lived on the other side? And the only person that got named, I had never heard of. And I'm like, okay, well, that's why. Because nobody knows who the hell it is.
It was probably a pedophile. Yeah. I mean, let's be real.
Or like a member of the royal family. Same difference. I'm sorry that you guys are pussies. Yes.
That's exactly how you do it. I'm sorry that you suck so bad that you can't take any criticism whatsoever.
That's right.
Well, and that's the thing.
I'm sorry that you suck that you don't have a sense of humor, because that's always like a joke that was taken out of context or something. It seems like too.
Yep. Well, and apologizing to people who are making a very strong moral claim of your badness is saying, "Hey, you were right about me being bad." And you have to know your enemy. Because, I mean, if you're doing that with your wife or your husband and say, hey, you're right, I did something wrong, I want to fix it, that other person has a vested interest in fixing it with you. Yeah. The people who are your enemies, the people on the left, liberals, communists, Antifa, fascists, all those people have no interest in fixing it. Yeah. So by going in and saying, yes, you're right,
I don't care about them either. I don't want to have anything to do with them. So, and I would be the first one to say, yeah, I am a shitty person. You probably should just avoid me.
You were right. You were right. Baden Border 87. Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, apologized for the blackface as Aladdin or whatever he did. And he was summarily forgiven.
Ah, very good. Very good.
There you go. That's the point. These are people who want to forgive you. Just like right now, look, let's talk about Cuomo for a second, because the corporate press is the enemy of the people. We all know this. This is common knowledge in these parts of the internet. But turns out he underreported the number of grandmothers and grandfathers that he killed with coronavirus by putting them in nursing homes. That happened.
Yeah.
And it became big fucking news, and the FBI allegedly was going to start looking at it. And then I know that Cuomo, nipple ring, cum dump, Cuomo didn't want that to be the story. I don't know if he expected the next story, but they decided to Me Too him so they could legitimately get rid of him and deplatform him and make him the enemy without going, oh, yeah, no, it was the COVID stuff. Yes. I mean, that's very clear to me. I mean, there's no other way that this. I mean, and it wasn't even like he did anything Me Too that I think was particularly bad. I haven't read the details, but wasn't it just talking?
Yeah, it was. Well, he did put his hands on somebody. There's a picture of him like putting his hands on some girl's face. But I mean, to me, that's not the worst thing in the world. It definitely would make me uncomfortable, but to me, and call me crazy, but
you're crazy.
Killing old people so that you can get the numbers to go up and justify a lockdown and mask mandates and God knows what else is a lot worse.
Well, and that was the thing. At that point in time, Cuomo wrote a book. Have you heard about Cuomo's book?
Yes.
Because it's literally like the Diary of Anne Frank, but with an Italian piece of shit. Like it's a guy who was in charge of this coronavirus thing. It was being shouted from the rooftops. Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, a lot of these really poor comedians that are still getting work in Hollywood called themselves Cuomo-sexual. And so
they probably are, though. Like,
well,
they probably are legit.
But they called themselves Cuomo-sexual, and
Stop saying
he saw a path to the presidency. He saw a path to his
Yeah.
I almost made a really bad and inappropriate joke just now.
Do it. That's what this show is for.
I was going to say something about pussy popping again. But, all right.
But no, he saw a path to the presidency, to being even bigger and taking that mob mentality into the White House. And he wrote a book that detailed how great he was, and how, even though New York was like the #1 per capita death count for COVID in the world at the time, and he was being lauded, he was being celebrated, and then he hid those numbers because he knew if those numbers came out, he would lose that elitism, that I'm the best bullshit that he was writing on. And so, and the establishment also knew that. And there are a lot of people who knew that he was lying. But as soon as it came out, they're like, oh, hey, you know what? He touched a girl on the face. Even though Joe Biden fucking sniffs toddlers and grabs baby crotches, he touched a girl on the face. Time to kill him.
Bad. It's so bad.
I mean, I'm not laughing because that part is funny. I'm just laughing at just the absurdity of it all. It's just so, it's just so blatantly absurd. I can't.
That's the appropriate
That is the
reaction.
beauty. Yeah. No, you laugh at the absurdity.
See, I don't get the pussy popping joke now, and I need to hear it.
Because they're all a bunch of fucking pussies.
So they're
all
popping
like
each
giant
other.
vaginas. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Giant wet vaginas.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of this going on.
Little giant wet
I haven't even
vaginas.
had
Sounds,
a lot to drink yet, and I'm already saying
I am a very straight man, but the visual image of a giant wet vagina sounds like a horror movie plot, where like there are 7 guys and you're being chased by some demented xenomorph style creature, and you have to run into the giant wet vagina to get away from it. That is where my mind
nightmare.
That's
That was
Noah and Steve Colbert and Andrew Cuomo. They're all just like they're like the trio of vaginas.
I need to be cleansed. I need to be. I need to take a shower now.
There's some broad out there, like the woman. Well, actually, hey, here's a fun fact. I've mentioned it before. Today's St. Patrick's Day. Last St. Patrick's Day, I lived in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I wanted to make an Irish car bomb, and so I needed to buy Bailey's Irish cream and some Jameson, and so I went to the liquor store, and I was like, hey. This is fun time. This will be good. This was when the coronavirus was beginning to be taken seriously. And the first round of the school closings and stuff like that was starting to happen. But not yet. I think the first official school closing was March 19th. But I walk in to the liquor store, and the woman behind the counter, I grab my liquor. The woman behind the counter goes, hey, it's good you came in today. This is the last day we're going to be open. And I was like, what? And I had noticed when I walked in that there were big sheets of plywood and hammers off to the side. And she said, yeah, because of coronavirus, we're closing down all the liquor stores, or Wolf is closing down all the liquor stores, and we're going to be boarding it up tonight. And
is that
I
like
said,
a government thing? Because in Pennsylvania, all the liquor stores are basically government run, right?
Right. No, yeah, they have a monopoly on liquor. So they decided they were going to close all that down, board it up. And that was like one of the last straws, was when I looked at that and went, do I want to do this? Out. Bye. So happy anniversary to leaving Pennsylvania last year.
Cheers.
My husband's from Pittsburgh, so he has a fondness for Pittsburgh and that side of Pennsylvania, but I just can't go back for a while, at least.
Yeah. Can we talk for a second about I want to continue this conversation about Cuomo, because during the time of his reign, and Fauci, like Devin says here, called New York the model for the nation when it was the highest death count, like bar none. But during this time period, where was I going with that?
Well, I think this wasn't Dr. Fauci like making a bunch of predictions, like 2 million people are
Yes,
going to die.
that was where I was
don't
going.
Do something.
That's where I was going.
He did do that, yes.
Because he made, I think at that point in time, it had been higher before, but it was also, they'd said at that point that about 2 million people were going to die from coronavirus. I think in the US, I can't verify that exactly because I don't have those thoughts or numbers on hand. But
I remember it was very near that figure. It scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, it was like 2 million people. And so by the time of the election this year, Donald Trump was the worst president in history because he didn't respond to coronavirus correctly and killed 200,000 people.
Well, he didn't. He was a racist, misogynist asshole because he wanted to stop flights from China and other parts of Asia. And Nancy Pelosi was like tap dancing in Chinatown, talking about how great Chinatown was and everybody needs to go visit.
That's right. She loves to tap dance, though, doesn't she? That's her like favorite activity.
But let's just talk about the fact that Donald Trump is on the hook for 200,000 lives, and he's the worst president in history when that is a tenth of what they said would happen. Mm-hmm. A tenth. And yet Cuomo, who has the worst death rates in the country, is the hero to look to.
I think New York State actually has higher death counts than a lot of countries.
Wow.
So that's pretty damn bad.
No.
So Bad and Border 87 asks, why do you think they're going after Cuomo after sucking his dick for a year? Could be Kamala trying to play defense. My theory, real quick, is that he got caught with the grandparent shit. And they wanted to cover it up with the Me Too shit. I think it's, I personally think it's that simple.
It's bigger than that, though. So, there is a lot of anger toward the state right now, just in general, over the lockdowns, all of the COVID shit, the mishandling, whether you blame Trump or whoever you blame. We need a sacrificial goat. And someone has to be sacrificed on the altar of the American people's anger. But unfortunately, COVID's not the only thing people are angry about. And sacrificing this dude isn't going to be enough to abate it.
I want them to be sacrificed.
I want Newsom sacrificed. I want to see that gussied up cunt just dripping with tar and covered with feathers. I want him to fall to pieces in front of everyone.
It's a vagina heavy evening.
It is.
Hey, I may hate women, but I love vaginas.
Well, then that's enough.
Well, then you must.
That's enough to get by.
Yeah, the Ferguson model was 2.2 million deaths.
So they're going to sacrifice him because of mimetic theory, and I encourage you guys to look into David Gornowski because he outlines like our need to sacrifice. We like build people up, and that's what we did with Como. We built him up, so now he can be toppled, and it will be very satisfying. But I don't think it's enough because there are so many things wrong right now, and so many points of anger that. I mean, it's a bold strategy, but I just don't think it's going to work out for them, Cotton.
No, I don't either. And what was it? They're trying to recall Gavin Newsom out of California, who someone very close to me who lives out there in California talked about how proud he was of his governor for locking them up.
They love him out there.
Is this person related to you by any chance?
I'm trying not to mention these relations in case he happens to listen.
I know about...
But
say his name. He knows who he is.
So they want to. There's a recall, and they're getting a lot of signatures. Like people are interested, especially.
It's only alt-right people that want him out too.
And so Gavin Newsom comes up and he says, "This is ridiculous. This whole recall business is just." Alt-right people, Q people, 3%ers.
Because there's tons of those in California.
Q people.
Right. Yeah, Q people. Everyone who's doing this is a Trump supporter who wanted to see Nancy Pelosi murdered on January 6th.
There are 100 people left in this country that will claim to be Q people at this point.
Yeah.
They're retarded.
And they're
They're
very
retarded.
retarded. Yeah.
I honestly think if anybody still is a Q supporter at this point, they have to be retarded because everything that was promised to them has never happened.
I hate to break this to you, but they were that way the whole time. That whole thing. I am convinced, and I've said it for since it came out, that it's a spook. Like that whole situation was a freaking spook.
It may be a spook, but it roped in a lot of real people. Because I know this girl, I hate her. She's dumb, but she seriously got roped into that shit. And on January 6th, she really thought the shit was going down. And I was watching her posts as much as I was watching the awesome, the terrible footage at the Capitol. And she was ready to go. She was ready to get busy for the real president, and then after that, it was amazing. And then the next day, all of those they believe that between every word is a drop, and a drop is like secret information. Yeah, trust the plan.
Yeah,
being conveyed to him. Oh, he said the word "and" in a specific tone, and that means. And the fact that there are still 100 Q people left, it gives me great hope. I love the tenacity of human faith.
So, and that's the thing. The Q people, the reason I say it's a spook is for the same reason that I say that Flat Earth is a spook. It was made to rope people in and have them think about it seriously so that there's a contingent of people that they can point to and say, these are crazy conspiracy theorists. Because anyone who disagreed with, who said, hey, you know what? The way this election went doesn't seem quite right, doesn't seem legitimate. They were all immediately said to be Q people. Mm-hmm. It was a way to dress up a villain that they could use in the future. That is my personal take on it.
And you can't say it now. You can't say that you think something was funny about the election because somebody will be, oh, what are you, one of those Q people?
Right. Yeah.
Even if it wasn't that, if they were going to do it, what would it look like? It would look exactly like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm drunk. Go ahead.
Yeah. Did you say I'm drunk? What? How dare you? How dare you? No, but that's the thing. I think that there are other people related to me, different from this person, who fully bought into the Donald Trump prophecies, the Cyrus prophecy, the there will be two presidents prophecy, the this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And this person who I love dearly, it didn't happen, but yeah. This person who I love dearly came up to me and said, well, even after January 20th, you just wait, or the day before January 20th, you just wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm like, okay, I don't believe that. There came a certain time where I was like, it's not going any other way than the way that they're saying that it went. The corporate press, I'm not saying there was fuckery in the voting or not. I don't care. All of it's illegitimate. But at the same time, the corporate press pushed so hard to cement the narrative so that there was no argument against it. Right. And they tied in the Q people. They tied in the January 6th thing. They tied in all of this. Yeah. It was an incredibly, I think, propagandized event. All of it. And I think it played its part to make sure that if there was some fuckery going on in the election, that it never saw the light of day. And I think Mitch McConnell was part of that.
Yeah, they're the illusion that the people on the right and people on the left are battling each other is all for your benefit. That's they decide long in advance. Other people, maybe Citibank, I don't know who does it, decide what will actually happen, and then they roll out this pantomime of political government for all of us to argue about. And while we're arguing about that, that's when the real governance happens. It's behind closed doors. It's not in the halls of Congress.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I love is that I can make any stupid bullshit comments and jokes and talk about silly things. And then I'm like, I want to tell you what really. I can see. Let me tell you what really happened. You know, like just move straight into it. Oh yeah. But that's my next question. I think is even more important. There's something that Jessica brought to my attention that I'd never thought about before, and I think that America needs to stop deluding themselves about this. I don't know if you watch children's television, but Peppa Pig's dad is a chode. Like, that's a human dick with a hairy ball sack.
Okay, first of all, why is no one talking about this? You go on all the YouTube videos of like Peppa Pig. No one's mentioning the fact. Look at it. Just look at it, man. I posted this on my Twitter today, and there were people who legitimately were like, I don't see it. And I'm like, I don't want to point it out to you. I want you to have that moment of realization on your own. But like, I wish I had one of those like Steve Madden pens right now that I could draw around the shape. And I'm like, if you look at the basic shape of Daddy Pig, and his name is Daddy Pig.
Here's the short staff right here.
There you go.
Here.
Yes,
and this is very clearly it's diseased.
But don't you
But it's a
think?
ball
I mean,
sack.
let's just be real. Like, I don't know if you guys, how old you guys are, but do you remember like all those old Disney movies and all like the hidden dick pictures and like?
Oh yeah.
Well, there was a clear penis on the cover of
The Little Mermaid.
Like,
Yeah. On the
that was-
VHS.
good Lord.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
like hidden things I think in children movies that you have to. That's why I don't
The
want my
hair.
kids to watch all that stuff for too long.
Sorry. And so, okay, in The Lion King, when Simba lays down and a bunch of the dust comes up,
Yep.
the word sex is spelled out. During a
Oh my
scene
God.
in Aladdin, if you turn the volume, I know about all these. If you turn the volume up in Aladdin, it says all good children like to have sex.
No, take off
Or-
their clothes.
Take off their clothes. That's what
That's
it
what
is.
it is.
There's a thing in Dumbo too. So when they were canceling Dumbo,
Who's
I don't remember
Dumbo?
quite what it was. It wasn't Dumbo, but when they were canceling it, I was like, oh, they must have figured out the thing, but I don't remember what it is. But Dumbo has a thing too. So whatever they're canceling Dumbo for, it's nothing compared to the hidden dick that's probably somewhere in that movie. Like, Disney's fucked up, y'all.
And I found
Well-
out I saw like another thing where it was like all these movies that I didn't even know that like were after I had grown up that had like there was like one where like they're in like a matchbox or something and they're like flying down. I don't know what movie this
Mhm.
is, but they're going
The
past all
Rescuers?
these apartment complexes, and in one of the apartment windows you see a TV that's on and it's a scene of like a porn or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That is
they,
real.
they hide all
And-
kinds of
well-
stuff in these things.
They
Well,
were
that's
like
the thing.
programming us.
Well, and that's
That's
the thing. They haven't stopped programming us or trying to explain away, because like the Disney thing with the Lion King, where it says sex in the sky, they say no, it doesn't say sex in the sky. It says SFX. It was a nod to the sound effects team. And so,
Mm.
but this is not something like this weird explaining away of very clear bullshit isn't something that's gone away.
That's
like,
bullshit.
Like,
That
let me show you. Let me show you
bullshit.
something I saw last night that I can't explain away. I need you to watch this video of Joe Biden. Watch his right hand on the left. Magical hand. Goes through microphones. It's amazing. Have y'all watched this before?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I saw that. I was shaking my head at like, it's not. That's fucked up.
I posted this on Instagram, and somebody had said that there's like a second White House in Georgia.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
That they said that this was filmed at or something. But I mean, I don't know how he would know that. But I didn't even know there was a second White House. But the guy showed me like a satellite picture of that location.
Well, we do have a Stonehenge here, so I mean, I don't live in Georgia. What? Yeah, no shit, there is.
Yeah.
Television
So
equals
it wouldn't
tele
surprise me.
Other
It's
White
all
House.
programming.
It wouldn't really surprise me if they're trying to make it look like this is a giant press conference, that he's at the White House, and maybe they're
got a fake
putting all
one.
those microphones in there digitally to make it look like he's like having this press conference.
Yeah, I don't think those
it's
people
because
are
of the
there.
Yeah, I don't think
Confederacy.
so either.
Jefferson Davis and his wife.
Well, there's a
Apparently.
soundstage White House as well that's used for movies.
Yeah.
That people have been showing pictures of and saying that's where Joe Biden really is when he pretends to be president and Kamala Harris is really the president with Hillary Clinton's help or whatever. But that video came out, and if you aren't watching the video, go find it. I will link it in the show notes on our website and in the YouTube video. Well, you don't need it in the YouTube video, will you? Screw you if you're watching the YouTube video. Just watch this thing. But people are saying, oh, well, this is not digital fuckery. This is just how cameras work. Obviously, he walked so close to the microphones and they're fuzzy, so it makes it look unclear. But you start taking a look at these pictures.
Yeah.
And you
Okay,
go, well, that
go ahead.
is
Sorry.
so clear. Here's the picture from me that's zoomed in.
Yeah.
Tell me, please, that his hand right here is not chroma keyed around this microphone.
I'm
Yeah.
not. First of all, I went to
looks
school.
out
I'm
of-
sorry, Jessie. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, he looks like he has a midget hand, too. It just looks weird. The whole thing just looks weird.
Like, if those two objects are occupying the same space perceptually, they would have to be different sizes.
Well,
Second of all, this
yeah.
was explained to me as forced perspective. But I happen to go to school for digital photography, and I know what forced perspective is. It's not. This is an optical illusion. It is a way to describe what forced perspective is, but that's not
Yeah,
what's
Lord of the
happening here.
Rings.
Yeah, so it would be like if you had, like a thimble on the ground and then your friend was standing 100 yards away and you took a picture of them and they would look the same size in that picture.
Yeah.
Right.
It would not place your friend in front of the thimble
Yeah.
at that size.
Not to
Yeah.
mention that both of the microphones that he covers with his hand, they would be bumping into his belly if they actually inhabited that space. He would have run into them. Like, none of this looks and it just falls into the same, the video last week where that video from him about, what was it? Selma, an anniversary of Selma or something, where he looked very clearly deep faked into
Yeah,
the
Like
you
video.
played that.
The bottom half of his face was like not. It didn't match.
Yeah,
The
like
top half
his I don't know what's going on. Maybe this is like, just admit that it's green screen. Admit that you're pretending. Just leave him in his office. Maybe they're just protecting him from the very sick people because he's old as shit and will die of COVID.
He
I mean,
is old as shit. He will
why
die of
pro-
COVID.
Why pretend to do this? Why not say he works from the White House? When he moves around and talks to people, he does it from a very far distance, or they do it in a very controlled environment. This does not seem real to me. And
Do you think
I
it
would
might
love
be
to
an
be convinced
experiment?
otherwise.
That's what I'm
I
wondering.
think it
I'm
might
just
be
like,
what?
it might be an experiment, and they're using him. They're kind of using him right now to see if they can deep fake things.
Mhm, mhm. I
So I'm
think
wondering if
you're
they're kind
hitting
of
the money.
using him as sort of a way to deep fake him into scenarios and make him seem less demented than he
Well,
is.
Yep.
They
Because he's
shared
vital
a-
and he's walking around and he's talking to people, he's talking to the press, and like there's all
Right.
kinds of motive to do that to make him seem like he's
Right.
vital.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but I like, it's when it's this clear, I don't understand keeping the lie. Like, what? I mean, it like they showed a secondary view of it, and it looked just like he was putting his hand through it again. There's no explanation of this that looks
So-
remotely convincing.
I think that there is something to the fact that it's not convincing, but they're showing you the second video and going, see, there's an explanation. And if you don't buy the explanation, you're some kind of conspiracy theorist. You want something to be wrong. What's wrong
Mhm.
with you? Here's the explanation. And I looked at that video. And again, I'm not an expert in video, but I did go to school for digital photography. So I'm
Right.
looking at this, I'm saying your explanation does not meet with the reality of the terms that you're using. And again, not an expert, but not stupid either. I mean, and that's what they're saying. Are you willing to say that the emperor is wearing clothes even
Yeah.
though he's naked
I
and
think
he's
that's it.
nude?
He's
We can see that dude's old gray balls.
I mean,
They look
I don't
like Peppa
know.
Pig. They look like
I'm
Peppa
just-
Pig's dad.
Daddy Pig.
Me and Maddie were just talking last night about how when we were just starting to talk about COVID, at first people thought we were crazy at first, but we were like, I think our episodes have actually aged pretty well considering everything that's happened. But like we kind of figured it out early on that something wasn't right. But I think
I can't tell you how well my beeline out of Pennsylvania to Florida has aged, because people thought I was crazy for being like, I'm gone and leaving 2 weeks after. But we're good, man. We got to Florida, and if the government comes and tells me that I can't wear a mask, I can tell them to fuck off, and they can't do anything about it. And I love that.
I think that the big thing that we kind of predicted was everything happening with Cuomo. We were talking about the deaths in Cuomo. We were talking about the PCR test not being cycled correctly, and that they were overcounting the people who died of COVID. I mean, it wasn't like it took a rocket scientist. I mean, I'm a hospice nurse. I've seen death certificates. I know how we categorize deaths. I know how we do all that. So it was kind of like, so why are we doing all these people's deaths differently? And I remember being called stupid, but now it's like, they're finally kind of admitting now that they overcounted. They're admitting that they are combining diagnoses together, like the pneumonia and the influenza and COVID together all in one, so they can get these numbers up. But I don't know. It's like this whole thing, like Cam, you're saying, like, you don't understand why people aren't seeing it. I just don't think people want to.
Yeah, I don't think people want to. And they've also been trained for the past year in their whole lives in public schools to trust the media and to trust the president, trust the government. I mean, in the school, like, let's talk about how important it is to point the finger at the university and academic system, because without them, what we see today would not be possible. Without the takeover of the public school system, without the insertion of critical race theory or uber feminism or all of these different ideas as being the morally correct view to young people who don't know any better. I was stupid enough to get a college degree. I could have believed anything. Luckily, I had a little bit more of a backing with my parents, and having been homeschooled from 8th grade on, by the time I got to college, like, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but there was a philosophy class that I had to take. And excuse me. And in this philosophy class, there were like 120 people. It was one of those where they had to like get as many people as possible into Philosophy 101. Yeah. And the professor would get up and talk and give his lectures and all of that. And then you'd take the test, and not a thing that he talked about in the lectures were on the test. The first test I took for that class, I got, I think, a C in, and no one else made any higher than that in the class. Not a soul. And so what was good was I was homeschooled. I learned how to teach myself, and I knew how to do that. And so I recognized that, and I went, okay, so I'm going to read the book. I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to study. And I ended that class with an A overall. And the class dwindled down to 36 people by the end of the semester.
Yep.
Philosophy is like one of those things that I feel like you can't really teach it, it's, I don't know. I feel like when I learned it in school, it was kind of a waste of time because I learned a lot more just reading it on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's really like, that's the thing is the public school system and then eventually college, they don't teach you how to learn or how to access information or how to be successful. They teach you what to think and how to regurgitate that thought back to them. And so that's what was like, because, when I was in high school and I'm starting to learn different aspects of history, I go, okay, so this is what I've heard, but I happened to read this article by Kevin Gutzman or someone else good that talked about, American history, the founders, whatever, and they included letters like the letter that Lincoln sent to Horace Greeley, where he talked about how if he could end the Civil War and bring the Union back together and keep slavery, he would.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so this flies in the face of everything you're taught in public school. I never went to public school, and I can tell you I did go to private school, but all of that same propaganda was there. It was just oriented differently. And so
both, and I remember there being I feel like in my private school, my teachers were like, "What do you think about this? Like, here, and introduce an idea, and we'd all discuss it, whatever."
right.
But I do remember not getting as much of that in public school. It was very regimented because they're teaching towards these standardized tests, and they want to get all their stuff in before it's time to test. And I remember I had a government teacher who I thought was pretty smart, but looking back, I'm realizing maybe she wasn't so smart. She taught
Government teachers are retarded. Just let me put that out there.
What I liked about her is that she gave us a test, and we answered the test like based on what our opinions were, and then it would tell you if you were a conservative or a Democrat, And
they gave you a binary to choose from.
Yeah.
But it was more like, but I liked it because I thought I was a Democrat, because I was like, I want like freedom and stuff like that. And that's what liberals are all about, right? Because I
want to marry an Indian woman.
Yeah, there you go. And, I realized like, I don't want government in my business. I want government to be small. I want to rely on myself for a lot of things. And I started realizing like, I'm not really, I guess I'm a conservative because I'm not really a Democrat. And I like that she kind of made you see like a lot of people were surprised by their what came out of that test. But then she gave us this test that was like, she made us take this test and we all failed it. It was like basic government stuff. And she's like, these are the tests that we give people who are immigrating here to the United States. And if you can't answer it, think about how hard it is for them to answer it. And I was like, sure, that makes sense. And now I'm thinking like, bitch, that's what you should be teaching us then. Like that's what job is.
And even so, all of that, like that, as well as the whole public school curriculum and even private school curriculum is meant, it's the Prussian model. It's meant to teach you how to be a good factory worker. Yeah. It's meant to teach you how to pay your taxes. It's meant to make you so that you are a viable moneymaker for the state. That is what it's for. Cut and dry.
John Taylor Gatto. He is the guy you guys want to look up for this topic. He goes into all the in-depth detail about how the American school system adopted the Prussian factory model for teaching their workers how to be good factory workers. Yeah, the bells especially are related to that. So yeah, they're programming children from a very early age. When you're in kindergarten, you're 5 years old, and you have to stand up every day and say, I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. What 5-year-old knows what the word allegiance means? I'm 37 years old. I barely comprehend the concept of allegiance, and it's something I think about.
Well,
so that programming
there are other things
really gets in there.
And in that programming, I think one of the primary programmings of the Pledge of Allegiance is one nation, indivisible. Because that conservatives who, let's not pretend that conservatives are all principled in any sense of the word. Let's not pretend that any large group of people knows what they're talking about.
No one is a monolith either.
Right. But there are people who should understand the fact that clearly this is not indivisible. Clearly, this was set up as an experiment, as 13 at that point, different sovereign nations that came together in a union like the UK. or I mean the European Union rather.
Okay.
And that when England decided they wanted to not be a part of the European Union anymore, they had every right to do so. No one argues that fact when it comes to Brexit. They argue about how it shouldn't have happened, or it was a bad idea, or that, or the other. But very few people go, they don't have the right to leave the European Union.
Fuck
different than my argument.
Right.
Well,
but
I mean, when it happened, I had a lot of friends who were talking about how, England, the UK, they're just going down the gutter now. It's going to be downhill from here. And I'm like, why? They don't want Germany and, they don't want
Brussels.
Germany to tell them what to do. Right?
I wouldn't.
I don't mind that.
How does that make sense to you? How does that sound bad?
I don't mind that aspect of it. What I do mind is that they told Ireland, who wanted to split off from the United Kingdom, that, oh no, you shouldn't do that because we're part of the European Union as the United Kingdom. So you will lose your status of the European Union if you separate from the UK. And so based on that, they decided in their voting not to separate from the UK. And then the next year, Brexit started to go through. And I think that is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, that is pretty bad.
I just, that's the thing. Say what you will about Nigel Farage, but that dude stuck his middle finger at Germany and France and all of those assholes and all the asshole European countries and said, we're doing our own thing. We don't want to be controlled by people that we haven't elected.
Exactly. How does this not make sense to people though? I just don't understand that. Like, and I guess that's the thing is that I guess it kind of all goes back to kind of what we're talking about is how it's a lot easier. I think what I'm running into is people are just ready to just go along with because it's a lot easier than to fight against. Because even my own parents are like, Jessie, don't you just get tired of like, why don't you just go get the vaccine? Why don't you just do all this? Just be quiet. It's just you're making yourself stressed out. And it's just like, because I don't want to be a fraud. Like, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror every day.
I understand that feeling.
I just need to tell you that I checked my phone and my wife texted me, "Oh, you hate women, do you?" So don't get me in trouble.
You're the one that's going to be sleeping in the couch. So
hey, don't do that to me. Devin here is actually a friend of mine. He said he went to public school for the first time in college. He had a 2.8 GPA from Catholic high school and knew more about history and philosophy than 4.0 GPA public school students.
Yeah.
I can attest to that from the homeschool perspective. And some of that has to do with, especially later on when I started learning on my own and reading letters and historical documents. A lot of that came through my friend Carl Jones, who Devin also knows. We were in, before I hit the libertarian groups on Facebook, before Tom Woods sent me to these different groups that I joined and I started talking to more people who thought like me, I was in a group called the Academy for the Study of Liberty from a guy who appreciated his Southern heritage enough to look into the Constitution and all of this. He is not an anarchist, but so many of the people that were in his group, he gave the tools to start talking about it in that way, to start seeing what was going on. And I know he doesn't love anarchists who argue poorly with him now, but without Carl Jones, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. I would never have found Tom Woods. I would never have ended up talking to Jessie or talking to David Derryberry, who led me to Jessica Green. None of this would be happening without that man. So
we love Dave.
Big ups to Carl Jones, and who is a son of the Confederate veterans who brought me to this point. So real quick shout out to that guy. But we've talked about CG presidents. We've talked about film and how they're trying to fake us. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there are other countries outside of the United States who make movies. One of these countries,
Really?
yeah, it's crazy. And some of the stuff is so insane. But there's this one country out there called Nigeria, and they have movies, and I have not watched this clip yet.
They have the best movies in Nigeria.
Jessica gave this to me. And so let's watch this real quick. Is that heroin?
That is not overacting at all.
What the hell? What a bastard!
What you are doing?
You fucked me, you monkey!
Marry me.
My future, my hope, all my stories, all my struggles, all my hopes. What will I do? I can't
Oh,
do it.
goodness.
Oh my God.
He's the best one so
I
far.
want him so much. I want to adopt this kid right now.
He's the best actor in the reel.
Why are you running?
Where are you running?
His reaction was really late.
It was like, what are you doing?
Oh boy, I have found my people here. Baden Border 87 says still better than any episode of Friends, and nothing has ever been truer.
Remember that episode where Rachel did heroin in her nose?
I remember the episode where you could see Rachel's nipples through her shirt, and it was every single episode.
All the episodes, yeah.
Which is why teenage boys could deal with Friends. Let's be honest.
Also, I didn't understand why my nipples didn't do that. I was very confused.
I never had any of these questions. I barely watched that show back then.
How come my t-shirts aren't standing 4 full inches off of the surface of my body? So confused.
So I just wanted to make sure I got that video in, but let me rewind and go. Yes, we are trained from childhood, kindergarten, to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're trained to believe that the country is indivisible and that it's not like the European Union. It's not like a compact that is voluntary in any sense of the word. We're trained to trust the military, who hate Tucker Carlson for saying that pregnant women shouldn't be in the battlefield. You name it.
They should be.
We're trained from I mean, absolutely. Why would we waste good men when we could put women out there?
Two
China's
people
like,
at once out on the field.
Right. China's really into that. They're definitely going to be putting their pregnant women in the battlefield when we're inevitably at war with them.
So how do you feel about women being on the battlefield?
Not good.
I used to be all for it and thought it was great. I have cousins
Because you like
that
women.
Huh?
Because you like it when women die.
I guess. But
This is a woman hate podcast, so if you have hate in your heart, you should let it out.
I have 2 cousins that served. I have one that actually, she was one of the first people that landed in Kuwait after they firebombed it. So she saw a lot of crazy shit. But I just personally, I don't think that war is good for anybody, really. I mean, I will say this.
It's good for those who make money from it.
Huh?
It's good for those who make money from it.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are a lot of those people.
I do feel like women are, when it comes to like violence, like in that sense, like women are more equipped at being able to like process it and get over it through and not have as bad of PTSD as men do. That's not really a great argument for like why we need to put women on the front lines or anything, but I personally don't even think women should be cops or correction officers or any of that stuff, just because
I don't even think women should drive.
Well, I kind of
according
have to.
According to Islam, it is bad for your pelvis. I don't know. There's a guy on TV in Iran who talks about it, and he says that when women drive, their pelvises get pointed in the wrong direction, and then they can't have babies. It's not a good thing.
Well, I will say this: if I could hire somebody to drive around and pick up my kids and take them to places besides me, that would be so amazing. I would love that. So I think we're moving in the right direction with that idea.
Jessie's, both of you. What's the difference between a hormone and an enzyme?
Shit. I know this.
You can't
Fuck you,
hear
Cam.
you can't hear an enzyme.
There's a real answer to that, and I do know what it is. I just have had a lot of fear.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you can hear a hormone.
I get it now.
I thought you were saying like because women are loud and whiny and stuff. That's not.
Women are not. We're not funny, so you have to explain the jokes to us.
Yeah, we're done.
That's the punchline. the punchline is you can hear a hormone.
I get it. Get it. You have a bunch of biology majors in here right now, and then you're like, "What's the difference between an enzyme and a hormone?" And we're like, "Shit."
What's funny is that is a joke going around TikTok, and every man just laughs, but every woman goes, "Wait, I know this. Let me think. Okay, so wait, I know this." And it's amazing.
Wow, I feel so attacked right now. God damn.
Oh, look, my wife commented. My dumb ass sat there and seriously answered his question all scientifically. She sure did. She is beautiful too. Big fan of that woman.
Aw,
I believe that this is actually the first episode of this show or any show I've done that she's actually watching.
Probably because she's hearing you say a bunch of sexist ass shit.
Yeah, we're being super sexist. We don't mean any of it, but we're really going for it tonight. We're supposed to be doing Irish stereotypes, and somehow we just started attacking women. So I feel like we're fulfilling our role, though. You know, if we're knocking women around, we're totally
that's true. Rule Irish of thumb, stereotype. Man.
That's a good point.
All right.
Devin says, when I worked at the Attorney General's office, we had multiple cases of women's correction officers sleeping with male inmates. That is because you can hear a hormone.
Yeah, I would.
That's the reason alone.
Heads up, burly, tattooed men. Shit. I'd be like, bang, 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 bang.
I will say, like, I worked in a psychiatric hospital, which is a lot like a correction.
Don't bang those guys, Jessie. Don't bang those guys. Don't do it.
They would never let me work.
I mean, the people that we were taking care of were less crazy than the people I worked with. And I'm not even kidding when I say that.
I believe that.
Psychotic people that we worked with that were like in charge of the crazy people. And we're like, how is this working out?
Every therapist or like, God, I have one friend who's a therapist. I'm like, God, I hope she's not watching. She's not. Anyway, every therapist I've known has been slightly out of their minds. Like,
there's something I kind of get out of that.
Yeah, you're attracted to that profession for a reason. I don't know what it is, and I'm sorry if you're a therapist. I don't mean to offend you, but you're all weird.
That's exactly why. I mean, here's the thing. Like, okay, so this is the thing about therapists is that you're having to talk with people about very intimate things. And corrections officers kind of do the same thing when you really think about it. They're spending the whole entire day with all these people and they're talking to these prisoners about their life. I can kind of see why that might happen because, like, the people that go into that field are probably coming from the same neighborhoods and same communities as the people that are behind the bars too.
Yeah.
So you may actually know some of those people. So I can see why that happens. I'm not saying it's a great idea or anything, but
no, and don't take my really seriously. Don't take my advice on anything. I say a lot of stupid bullshit. But did you guys see that video where the judge knew the defendant? They went to high school together, and she was like, "Wait a minute, are you so and so from such and such high school?" And so, like, this judge was judging on somebody who had committed a crime. They had known each other since they were kids, and they had this kind of like human moment. And I was like, "Damn, like, you know." I wonder if that like helped him out in any way, but wouldn't that point out how fucked up the justice system is if she did help him out because they knew each
Yeah.
other in high school. Yeah. But I still hoped that he got helped out because
I do, and I think that it's harder for women. I really do feel like that's why I don't think women should be corrections officers or police officers, because it's hard to what is the word I'm trying to think?
not nurture.
Yeah,
people who
like
need it.
you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be the tough guy, and it's hard to do that when you have empathy and sympathy for people. So,
Right.
And on top of that, you're
Which-
weaker than most of the
which-
people that you're going to be trying to subdue, and you're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have to pull out your gun, and you're going to more likely to shoot and do something stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's evolutionarily correct. Ooh, I did that while I'm very drunk. I'm very proud of myself.
I'm
Evolutionary
proud of you too.
correct for women to have an increased level of empathy because they have to deal with young children, which are a son of a bitch to deal with, as I learned recently.
I would not understand this. How do you mean? Are children bad?
How do you mean? No, they're terrible little demons.
Yes.
They're awful people.
They're also
the worst human beings.
You could also
They're like the most hilarious things ever, though.
So cute.
You could also safely describe a baby and a toddler as retarded and be completely spot on. Like
if there was an adult that behaved that way out in the world, you would be like, what the fuck is wrong with this person? It's terrible.
Why is his shirt off all of a sudden? What is he doing with his nipple?
Why am I being screamed at? Because I'm grabbing the blue plate instead of the green plate.
Okay,
I need to understand what the fuck.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fucking plates. I made the mistake early on with my two sons to kind of assign them colors so that I would know, me and my wife would know what their things were. Like, well, I mean, it was like, okay, well, Ezra's backpack is blue. Or
okay, I got you.
Whatever. And that way it's a very clear, easy, visible marker.
I'm sorry I said that's weird. Actually, you've got 5, so it makes sense to color code them because like you've got to like organize all their shit. I'm sorry that I said that's weird. That actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. Go ahead.
Well, and so at this point, if you have the wrong color plate, if you have the wrong color bowl, whatever, if it's not their favorite color, they don't want to eat.
Yeah,
they will starve themselves.
They're so dumb. They're so dumb. I love them.
Why
so
don't they eat?
Okay,
what
so my son today, we have like for Valentine's Day, the church gave them a bunch of like popcorn and like little baggie, like those little movie bags to put them in.
Yeah. Oh,
so we had one left over and we had no more popcorn. So he wanted me to put something in it. So I just gave him a banana because I was making dinner. The banana was heavy and it tore through the bag. So I picked up the banana and took it away. And he's crying like tears. His face is red. Tears are coming out of his eyes. He's like, and he just goes, banana! And then I was like, okay. So I gave him back the banana and he starts peeling it and eating it. And then he was like, Mom, how dare you? I was like, you're 5.
The audacity of these children. The audacity.
You're 5, dude. Just stop.
So here's another thing I just thought of when you were talking about that court case. Did you ever see there was a court case in Georgia? It was state of Georgia versus Denver Fenton Allen. And it was wild. Have you seen this? Where
best. Yes, I'm from Georgia, so I know all about this.
So
it is the best.
So the guys that make Rick and Morty took this real court transcript and acted it. There's one guy acting out both ends. Have you seen this before, Jessie?
No.
Yes. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, the other. Sorry.
This is a gem. Please enjoy this with me.
Okay, okay, Mr. Allen.
Right.
I believe that your case was going to trial not this Monday, but the following Monday. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, I tell you, if you need to tell me something, I want I'll let you come up here to the podium so you can speak into the microphone and I can hear you.
Yes, the attorney here, I'm wanting to fire him.
Uh-huh.
And, I don't feel like he's doing any...
Who are you going to hire?
I'm not going to hire nobody. I'm going to try to get a different public defender.
There isn't... You have a right to an attorney.
This lawyer has...
You don't have a right to a specific attorney.
This lawyer has made sexual advances on me. He's misrepresenting my case. He told me if I wanted him to do a good job, I had to let him give me oral sex. He's had doctors at Central State Hospital
had doctors at Central State Hospital
put a false diagnosis on me.
Okay. I know Mr. Wyatt pretty well, and I don't think he has the ability to make doctors at Central State do anything.
Well, they did it, and he's the one that had me sit down there.
Well, they may have done it, but I don't think that he had anything to do with it.
All right, well, he won't give me the discovery. There's things in discovery he's supposed to give me the incident and told me that it was the discovery.
Okay.
They're alternating documents that I've read.
If you want the indictment, I'll make sure you get a copy of the indictment.
No, I'm saying I got the indictment, but he's not complying with discovery.
Okay.
I'm supposed to get the autopsy report, the coroner report, pictures of the crime scene.
Coroner report?
Criminal background records. I want...
Is this a judge?
In the county jail.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get the criminal background records, investigational summaries.
Mr. Wyatt, what discovery do you have?
I've given him everything I have.
You've given him everything you have?
Yes, sir.
He's given you everything.
This is a murder case, and this is a murder case, and you're telling me the only thing on discovery is a 4-page indictment?
I don't think he's saying that. I think he's saying he's given you everything he has.
He ain't giving me no autopsy report. He ain't giving me no coroner's report. He ain't giving me...
Well, it may be that he doesn't have that. I don't know.
That's what I've been trying to get. He didn't give me pictures of the crime scene. I've seen other people go to trial on murder charges. I've seen what you're supposed to get. I'm not going to work with this attorney.
Well,
it's not gonna happen.
You've got
I'm not going to trial with this attorney.
Well, you've got two choices. One, you can go to trial with them, or two, you can try the case yourself. Now, I definitely completely think that's...
And I've got a right to have...
Wait a minute. Listen to me. That would be the biggest mistake you've ever made in your life.
So basically, you're sitting here telling me...
Now,
you're gonna find me guilty if I go to trial and try to defend myself?
You're probably right. That would be my guess if you try to defend yourself. You don't know anything about selecting a jury, do you?
No.
Do you know anything about cross-examining witnesses?
No.
Do you know anything about criminal procedure?
I know I don't have to let...
Do you know anything?
This guy suck my...
Let me
to get some legal representation.
You know something? I'll be honest, Mr. Allen. I really don't believe that.
Well, I'm not concerned if you believe it or not. I'm supposed to have a right to an attorney, and I'm not gonna work with this attorney.
Well, that's up to you.
So I hold myself in contempt if you try to pull me up here to court with that attorney.
That's fine. I mean, that's up to you. I told you what your choices are. You can go to trial.
I'm just telling you.
Listen to me.
I'll hold myself into contempt.
Listen to me.
You.
Listen to me.
Go yourself. I'm through here. Y'all done?
I'm finding you in contempt of court.
I don't care.
I know you don't. And I sentence you to 20 days for that. And if you say anything else, I'm going to add 20 days for everything you say.
You.
40 days.
You again.
60.
Go yourself.
A year.
Your mama.
10 years.
Suck my...
You know something? This is going to be an interesting trial.
Oh, yeah?
Based as
You're not supposed to smile in court. You know that if you smile...
I can smile anytime I want.
It's a violation. Now you're cussing and yelling at me.
I have not cussed.
Yeah, you did.
I am yelling.
Well, go yourself. Suck my...
That's why I'm yelling.
Suck my...
You know something? You are absolutely the rudest person I think I've ever met.
You reckon if I let you suck my that I could get a fair trial here?
Oh, I don't think so.
I got a big now. And if I pull it out...
I don't think that's going to get you a fair trial unless you have every one of the jurors do it.
I don't think that mouth is big enough, sir. I've got a big old donkey.
You know, I'm sure mine's not.
I've got a big old donkey for that ass.
Good. I'm sure the women love it.
I don't girls.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
I boys.
Oh, I'm sorry. You prefer men.
I boys.
You prefer men, right?
I white boys.
You white or black?
White boys.
Oh, butt boys?
With big butts.
Oh, of course. You know, you look like a queer.
Well, okay, so now you're calling me a queer in the courtroom?
I didn't call you one. I said you looked like one.
You're yelling.
Do you understand the English language?
Wait, you're yelling, you're laughing.
Do you understand the English language?
This is kangaroo court, sir.
You know what? No, we're not in Australia.
I mean, if you want to suck my You can do it anytime now. We can
Oh,
get this court
you're
ordered.
so smart.
Do we have to court order this?
You're so funny. You're so cute.
Can we get a court order to get my sucked, sir?
You're so cute. I know all the inmates just love you to death.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I bet.
All the white
This is a
butt
real
boys love me to
case?
death, too.
Okay, well,
Yes.
I'll bet they do. And
Okay,
I bet all
the
the
judge
rest
is
of
an
them do,
idiot.
too.
You ain't supposed
You got
to
the
smile
judge
in
to
court.
I'll bet
say
everybody
you
enjoys
look like a
sucking your-
queer.
You ain't supposed to be smiling in court. That's a violation.
I can smile anytime my dad want to.
Now you're yelling at me again.
I am. I'm yelling.
You're getting mad.
Can you hear me?
You're shaking.
I am yelling at you.
Well, reckon you can suck my
Yelling.
Can you take a break?
Yelling.
Can you take a break?
I'm yelling at you.
Can you take a break?
Yelling.
Can I get my sucked?
Can you hear me?
Everyone in the
Yelling.
court
Can I
was
get my
doing.
sucked?
Yelling.
Are
Yelling.
you ready to suck now? Have you got it all out?
You know something?
We will, but you want me to you in the butt then, right?
Oh my goodness. You've got plenty of that over in
I
jail.
could see it in you when I came in the courtroom.
Okay, that's fine. You're going to be here on. Let me tell you how this is going to work. You're going to
You
be.
ain't gonna tell me shit.
Listen.
Suck my
Shut up. Listen to me.
Suck my man.
Listen.
Suck my
You will be here in the court on
You'll
Monday.
be here sucking my
Well, listen to me
Go
now.
yourself.
Okay, I'm going to tell you how this is going to work. You either listen or not. I don't care.
I'm through. Can I leave the courtroom?
No.
No, you've got to stay here.
No, I'm not talking to the bastard.
We are going to have the trial Monday week.
No, we are. I ain't going to trial with this lawyer present.
Listen, if you do not.
Suck my you stinking ass cracker.
If you act like this, I will send you out of the courtroom.
Old bitch ass cracker.
And leave you out of the courtroom during the trial.
Horse ass cracker.
Do you understand
Horse
that?
ass sucking ass.
Do you understand
big
that?
butt
Do you understand
man
that?
ass cracker.
Do you understand that?
Getting mad, ain't you?
Stupid.
Red face.
Listen.
Now you're calling me stupid.
Listen. Yes, I am.
This is kangaroo court.
You know what? You have a constitutional right to be a dumbass.
Why don't you jump up on the stand?
You have a
and jump
constitutional
around
right
like
to be
a
a
kangaroo, you dumb bastard.
Well, if you-
Suck my I ain't listening to nothing you say.
Come in here Monday
And
weekend.
how about this? I'll kill your whole family. And when I get in this trial, I'll murder your whole family. I'll cut your children up into pieces. I'll knock their brains out with a hammer and feed them to you.
Are you taking this down?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to refer you to the district attorney's office.
I don't give a who you're referring to.
I'm just telling
I
you.
thought you were referring to my mother man.
Aggravated assault, terroristic threats, and we'll just
I
add
don't give
to
a
it.
I will murder you, your whole family, your kids. I am not supposed to be in jail. I was framed. That motherfucker asked me to eat his ass for a bag of coffee.
Well,
and
you
now
know-
you're telling me that I got to go to trial with this
We're not
man
going to get
over
that
here.
coffee
Obviously,
sponsorship now.
You're obviously fixated on butts and.
Huh? I'm fixated on your mouth.
No, you're fixated on butts and.
You got a nasty mouth, sir.
I have an awful mouth.
You have a big old fat mouth.
I do.
You got to have a big old mouth to get this in
I
it.
sure do.
All right.
Yep, I'm proud of it.
I'll make sure the next time I come to court, I'll pull it out and jack on you.
Okay, why don't you do that right now?
I jack on white boys.
Well, why don't you do that right now?
Just like I jack on females.
Do it right now.
I can't do it now.
Do it now.
I ain't got.
I don't care.
Take off the cuffs.
How many hands do you have to do it?
Take off the cuffs.
Come on. No. Jack off.
This is kangaroo court.
Come on, jack off.
This is kangaroo court.
Jack off right now.
Are y'all getting this?
Yeah, they're getting it.
I'm gonna
Georgia
make sure
Justice.
this guy done called me stupid. This motherfucker done told me he was gonna suck my.
I did not say that.
He wanted me to him in the butt.
I did not say that either.
You're a real
He
nasty
did.
ass
If you
judge.
listen
I am
to this
indeed,
transcript,
and you're
he did.
going to find out
Now-
how nasty I really am.
You'll find out how nasty I am when I murder your whole family, bitch.
Okay, that's fine. You know, you'll be in jail so long you won't have a
The
chance.
babies will be going, Daddy, help me. I'm just going to knock their brains out with the hammer.
Okay, well, you know, if I had any kids, you'd probably be able to do that. But since I don't have any, it doesn't really
Well, then
matter.
I'll get your nieces, your nephews, your
It
sisters.
doesn't really matter. I don't have any of those either.
Grandkids.
I don't have any of those either.
Aunties, aunts.
How can I have grandkids if I don't have any kids?
Brothers, sisters.
Stupid. You know, you're just completely have no idea of the English
If
language.
you're not going to suck my sir, I don't want to be here.
Okay, I've enjoyed this. I hope you have. I know everybody else in the courtroom has enjoyed it, but you can go now. And if,
All right, well,
if on Monday week this happens again, you will not stay in the
suck
courtroom.
my sir.
Okay.
I'm subpoenaing y'all's ass in the courtroom.
Goddamn right. That's how we do it in GA. What up? And that was our friend, Tetsui. Is that how you say it? That would be
Wait.
him in court, for real.
Oh, Tet?
Tet, yeah, that would be Tet in court. He's like, if you're not gonna suck my dick, I don't want to be here.
I just have to say, I doubt he's listening to this, but I appreciate the hell out of Tet
I love him.
so much. That I remember seeing that the first time and going, holy hell, I can't believe that's real. It's like, Honestly, it's like what would happen if Dewey Crow from Justified was in court.
Did you say Arlo?
No, Dewey.
Oh no, okay. Also Arlo. Arlo would be
Yeah,
that way,
Arlo too.
No, what's interesting about that is you can tell from the transcript that it's a person who's probably not like educated in the law, but he's giving those people actually like a proper what for.
Yeah.
Because they should he's literally saying that you're telling me I'm on murder trial and the only thing that you have in discovery is a 4-page indictment. Like, he's right. He's absolutely right. And his behavior is completely warranted, in my opinion. And I find anybody who is willing to stick their thumb in the eye of authority, knowing what can be brought down on them and doing it anyway, that's like real bravery. So,
Well, and
I mean, a lot of people think that's
it's
stupid, but I
also-
don't.
I find it fantastic and hilarious. But on top of that, it's like you could tell that the judge wasn't prepared, that he knew it was an inmate, and he didn't know anything beyond that. Because that first, wait, this is murder? Is so like, how did you not know this?
But here is this man on trial for murder, and the judge doesn't even know what he's there for. Suck my dick.
That is government right there. Like your life is in the fate. You know, your fate is in these people's hands, and they don't know what the fuck they're even doing. You know, that's what it comes down to. I mean,
beautiful.
I mean, I'm a nurse, and I can even tell you, like everybody wants to trust what the doctors think, and it's just, you know, doctors don't know shit either. Sometimes, just because they have the MD doesn't mean they know what the hell your situation is.
Right, and I've had this conversation, I think, with you in the past, but there are a lot of people, or I think you were part of the conversation, where I was just talking about how people appeal to intelligence or education as like a means to be like, well, this person, they're too smart to think about how they're being trained or programmed or whatever. Yeah. When in reality, the people who have been in school the longest, doctors, have had the most straight up programming than anyone. They've had more than anyone. And so it's one of those things where like, I understand the need to go, well, this person is a smart engineer, or he's a smart theoretical physicist. Yeah. But packaged along with theoretical physics or medicine or whatever are all of these horrible theories or hypotheses that are called theories or whatever that they're fed. I mean, yeah, they were fed some shit at birth, but by the time they hit college, it's like that much worse. And so they're far more propagandized than even the high school dropout.
I think that intelligent people are actually easier to fool in that regard because they believe themselves to be smart and they believe themselves to be beyond programming. So they'll watch something like CNN and say, okay, I know that this has a slant, or Fox News, whatever it is. I'm not signaling out just CNN, all of the corporate media. They watch that and they say, okay, yes, I know that there's probably some slant to this, but I am a smart person. Therefore, I'm sure that I'll be able to see through that veil and get to the true information. But you don't go beyond the assumption that you're a smart person. And I see that with a lot of people. A lot of people I admire as intelligent, a lot of people who are intelligent in their fields. But when it comes to sort of the information that they're fed from other so-called experts, I don't know if they're deferring to professional courtesy or what their motivations are necessarily, but they trust implicitly something that's being told to them by an authority. And that's a problem because, you know, they have a history of lying. They have a history of telling you things that are not, you know, the truth for their benefit and not yours. So even if you didn't know that, like even if you weren't aware of your own implicit biases, you could at least be aware of history. You would know that these things would happen.
And Iowa ANCAP, who I want to signal as someone who I appreciate super greatly, that's just a good dude. He says that smart people want to be seen as smart. And this is true. And the way that the world works right now with science, or if you want to say scientism, as some nerds talk about it, I mean, it's a very important thing. It's just scientism sounds so stupid that I have a hard time taking anyone seriously.
I don't know
who says it. But
what does it mean? I'm sorry.
well,
I don't
science.
mean
Like
to
a
When
stop.
people
religion.
say, yeah, it's like the religiosity of science, making it
Yeah.
into a god, but they call it scientism like they would any other libertarianism.
Yeah.
Okay,
whatever.
so like when you replace your faith with
Taoism.
science.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Right.
I got you. Okay.
But yeah, smart people want to be seen as smart, and the stranglehold that the progressives have on intelligence, academia, all of that makes it so that even though they are smart people and could suss out the truth, they want to be seen as smart. So they're willing, very willing, to go along with the crowd so they don't lose that status as smart. I think that's a very good point, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's not even just like smart or intelligence can be so many different things. So it's like kind of one of those things where I think a lot of different people are very intelligent. It's just in different ways. So I think that people that are more susceptible to falling for like that I'm smart, I need to seem smart, or people like you're talking about that went to college, they got their degrees, they have the proof right here. So what I say obviously is right because here's my PhD, you know. But I think that where was I going with this? I guess the thing that I have noticed is that the most intelligent people that I've met, they know their limitations and they know when they know when to say like I just don't know that. I'm going to defer to somebody who does.
And I think that is a lesson you should take from philosophy, a lesson you should take from Socrates, who said, all that I know is that I know nothing. I think that there's a great wisdom in humility. There's a great wisdom. It's like, for me, I have a degree in biblical studies. I have a degree in searching for God and looking into theology and chasing after an understanding and a knowledge of this person that I want to know. And so I think that people spend a lot of time trying to act like they're smarter than they are, when in fact they should start with the at the bottom and saying, I don't know anything. Because the more I learn about God, the more I learn about theology, the more I learn about anarchism, libertarianism, all of these things, it points to the fact that although I am gaining a body of knowledge, I am gaining closeness to the concepts, to the person of God, to all of these things, that the more I look into the infinite, the more I realize I know very little. And to go and say, I know these things, that I am smart, is a fool's errand. I think if you don't start with the humility of, I always have more to learn and I have to look smart, you're missing a wealth of knowledge that you would get otherwise.
That's actually my takeaway from that quote. I think it's Nietzsche. I'm not sure. That when you stare into the abyss stares back at you. And when you look past, into these sort of like unknown realms, you realize how very little we know. And that's something that comes to be especially true with physics, which is supposed to be like our highest level of science. But, when you really start talking to like the theoretical physicists, they'll tell you we know almost nothing about the inner workings of our universe. And it's
We're making shit up.
We're making shit up. Yeah. Interestingly, the math does predict some things. We see things in mathematics before we're able to prove them in nature, which I think is a really interesting development. Like we saw black holes, for example, in mathematics before we were able to identify them in the wild in space.
I would actually argue that, and this will make a physicist pissed off, but I would almost argue that mathematicians are much more, they understand much more than physicists do about the world.
Sure.
Well, and here's the deal. When I was in my first years of homeschool, my math teacher, my algebra 2 teacher, I used to make fun of him because he would sit there and he would say, if you want to know God, you have to know mathematics, because mathematics is the language of God.
Absolutely.
And I always said, well, then God obviously doesn't want to talk to me, because that is not my language. And he hated me. And because I'm a smart ass. But it's true, because we were going to talk about interdimensional beings. And for me, that ends up in the spiritual realm. But the fact is, he was right. He was right that the infinite, that the beauty of nature that we see, that the architecture of the world and everything beyond, the allegedly ever expanding universe, is based in these ideas that we can't fully comprehend. They're based in math. They're based in science. They're based in things that are beyond the human mind at this point. And they're little bits, little tidbits, little breadcrumbs we can follow to find out truth. And a lot of people take that truth and try to erase God from it. I think that that's stupid as hell. But
there was some
the
intellect
truth
behind
is,
it. Yeah.
Right. But God does talk through math. He talks through science. He talks through the ocean and waves and nature and beauty and art and how beautiful women are. I mean, I may joke that I hate them, but that was like, the zenith of God's creation was the female form. Let's not lie.
So, have you guys ever seen Annie Hall? It's a Woody Allen movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
So, there's a scene where he's a little boy and his mother has taken to the therapist. And the therapist says, "What's wrong?" She says, "He won't do his homework." He looks down and says, "Son, why won't you do your homework?" He says, "The universe is expanding." So the universe is expanding, and that means you won't do your homework? So if the universe is expanding, then it's eventually just going to separate out so far and become nothingness. And so it doesn't matter whether I do my homework or not. And the therapist just sat back and lit a cigarette and just sat there and smoked. And I was like, yeah, honestly, like, some of the stuff that theoretical physicists get into is really high-minded and almost is kind of like, why are we even bothering with that? Thinking about what the play out will be 30 billion years from now. Like, are you freaking kidding me? That's not enough time for you.
Though.
It is fascinating to think about.
And it is fascinating to think about. But I think, like, I'll have to tie this back to Socrates. We have to start with the understanding that we know nothing, that we view things through a scanner darkly. We view life through the lens of the finite, through a lens that cannot see what needs to be seen to fully understand. When you come to that realization and you realize that I'm picking up, like I said before, like I'm picking up breadcrumbs. I'm picking up tiny pieces that I'm able to fully understand, that I'm able to grasp in some sense. That is where you start to learn. You start to learn in the spaces where you realize you don't know, and that you can go further, that you can, I mean, mathematicians, scientists, not all of them are Christian, but let's not pretend that science and the studies that we do now did not stem from the church, did not stem from people who were looking for God.
The holy men were the tendies. They were the tendies of knowledge for the longest time. And it was the Islamic clerics and the monks of Christian Europe that actually tended the flame of knowledge. And so we owe all of our scientific discovery to churchmen. And even when I was a diehard atheist, I would really hammer this point home to my compatriots that, it was people who believed in God, people like Johannes Kepler, who gave us our understanding of the universe that we have today. Galileo. So you can't discount these men's faith led them to try to discover God's work and understand it. So you can't discount their faith. It wouldn't be fair to them to do that.
Yeah. And I think that like for those who are Christian, for those who are people of the book, that is a very specific lesson that I think everyone who is of that type of person, a faithful person, someone who chases after God and things that are bigger than themselves, needs to internalize. I think that those outside of that need to recognize that if it wasn't for those who were chasing after the infinite, they would never have found the backbone, the foundation of the finite that we are learning today.
Right. And
Well,
I think
that's the true
oh,
intelligence, I think, is that like I was just thinking about the most intelligent people are the people that are very passionate about like the things that they're learning. It reminds me of like this we had this Chinese family that came to our church for a while the husband was working for one of the labs. I live in an area where we have these labs nearby.
Are there also wet markets near the labs?
No, but we draw a lot of people from different countries that work in engineering and science. So
Cool.
he was a mathematician, and he's Chinese. He is obviously coming from like a communist atheist background. I mean, you're not allowed to have a religion really there, and they really try to downplay all of that. So when he came to America and started studying math, he started talking to some Christians, and he was like, that's kind of what mathematicians have always been looking for, is a way to either prove or disprove God through mathematics. And you kind of realize like how passionate he is about math, trying to solve all these problems. And you also kind of realize like how ordered our world really is. Like we think we live in a chaotic world, but when you look at and I mean, I learned this just in taking my prerequisites for nursing school, like no matter what part of the world you're from, no matter if you're a male or female, you have the same notches on your bones that somebody way over there who's 6'5" has. And we have so many similarities, and it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. We have all these, we have a lot more things in common than we do different, just genetically, just down to your atoms. And when you think about also like how atoms work, like what holds all these subatomic particles together, you realize like there's a lot of intelligence there. There's something like why are all these elements so similar, and what makes like a human being different from a tree? Like why do we have the sentient thought? Why are we able to have like conversations with each other? We share a lot of the same atoms that a tree has. It does make you think like, what's going on with that? Why is that?
Right.
I think it's really interesting that when we started mapping the genome of living species on Earth, we thought that the human would be like so much more complicated than, say, a blade of grass. And then we found out that the blade of grass is, in fact, infinitely more complex than we are.
Right.
And, our hubris is a little much sometimes, that we assume our place in God's universe and our complexity and everything comes to the pinnacle of humanity. But the journey work of the stars is actually written out in the blade of grass. Blade of grass has to be so much more complicated than we are.
And one thing I want to say is we are anarchists. That's what we are. That is not the full story of what we are. But as anarchists, when we see people out in the wild equate chaos with anarchy, we get annoyed because we see anarchy as the mother of order rather than the daughter of chaos. And so
it is the driving force of order, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I think that when it comes to science, mathematicians may say that mathematics over the course of the ages, of the centuries, of all of this, have been set to prove or disprove God. I would say that is not what the original mathematicians were looking for. They weren't looking to approve or disprove God, or prove or disprove God. They were looking to know God. And I think that similarly as in our understanding of anarchy versus chaos, we don't need to confuse entropy with chaos, because that I think is something that comes up a lot because of entropy, because of the breaking down of things.
That's a natural process. Everything has to go through.
Right. Because of, radioactive decay, because of all of these things, we make these assumptions. And it is not chaos in which we were born. It was order. It was beauty. It was art. That is my understanding of the world that we live in.
So
interestingly,
and I think
that's beautiful.
My husband is a physicist. That doesn't make me a physicist, but he has explained
does.
to me. No,
That's why you're
no,
allowed to
I'm
vote.
not a doctor's wife. Like, I'm not doing that. Trust me. But he explained an interesting point to me that he understood very deeply, and I understood only at the surface level. But it's that the universe was not some random chaotic explosion that happened to fall the way that it did. If matter did not exist at this very, very specific frequency, it would not form at all. It had to only form, and I think there's a number for it. It's like 0.137. I don't know what the unit of that is, what the significance of it is, but at 0.137, matter can form. If you're at 0.138 or 0.136, matter cannot exist. Only energy. So to say that this is, yeah, it is secondhand mansplaining. Sorry, I put it up. Yeah, secondhand mansplaining. So, but that is very interesting to me, and was interesting to me even in my most diehard atheistic times, that it had to be so specific to even form the way that it did. And even Einstein had what he called spooky action at a distance. Matter does not behave all the way according to mathematics.
And it changes based on how it's observed.
Sometimes it changes based on whether you're looking at it or not. And so, again, just to round it back to that point, that there's so little that the experts understand, that the true experts turn around and tell you, we don't know anything. And that's really a good position to stand on.
And that's the point.
That's the point.
That's the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think that is something we need to realize.
And that's the key.
Yes.
I was going to say this to my husband because he always gets on my case about this, but he's like, how do you know more than Dr. Fauci? It's like, I don't know more than Dr. Fauci. I just know that Dr. Fauci just does not know as much shit as you think he does. That's the key.
Well, Dr. Fauci said you could get AIDS from touching a doorknob. So let's not talk about him.
Maybe that's how he got it.
I remember being told that evil. As a child, by the way, that you could get AIDS from a toilet seat. That came from Dr. Fauci. He made that shit up. And then I, as a child, was taught it at school.
Him so much.
I hate him. Yeah,
with all my heart.
Well, and
hate in your heart, let it out.
That was another conversation that we had, Jessie, Vixie.
About how much you hate Dr. Fauci?
Well, no, you had talked about how he's a moron, and I very strongly disagreed with that because I don't believe that Dr. Fauci is a moron. I believe that he is doing a work. I believe that he is evil. I believe that he is doing something, and he knows very well what he's doing. I know that after the 80s, gay people were stigmatized much further by gay cancer caused by the way Dr. Fauci spoke about them than they would have been had it not been for him. Right. So I do not give quarter to the evil. I do not give quarter to people who are willing to hurt people to make a name for themselves, to become an expert, etc.
You're the theology expert, Cam. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but
Don't call me that.
Okay, you're the closest thing I have to a theology expert. Better?
That'll do.
Okay, I believe that's what the "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live" is about people like that work intentionally to harm others.
Right.
That's what I think that means. And it's not about like Wicca, like girls with herbs and crystals and shit. Like that's, I actually got violently attacked because I was like Wiccan in high school, and like I got violently attacked because of it. And that was their sort of basis for attacking me, was biblically, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." So that really effed me up for a long time. And I think actually like Dr. Fauci is what is referred to as like a witch. And I'm not saying, I'm not telling anyone not to suffer him to live. That's not what I mean. I'm saying, I think that's more what the Bible means than like girls with herbs and crystals.
Well, and so if you look at the term for witch in the Bible, it is tied to the word rebellion. And if you look further at what witch meant within the context of the Israelites, within the Canaanites, the Edomites, all of the people around that area, these were people, and this will tie into whenever we end up having a conversation about interdimensional beings.
Yeah, I
But-
know we're kind of like floating toward. We always do toward the end of every episode. We do.
But these were women, men, etc., who were accessing beings that were beyond human, that were able to, that had abilities and were able to do things and share knowledge that would hurt others. And so I do think that there's a wisdom in what you said. I do think that there are people who have the station and who say, like a witch would say, I speak to Zeus, I speak to Odin, I speak to Thor, I speak to Marduk, Baal, whatever. And they're able to speak from a level of it's like what's that fallacy called? An appeal to authority.
Yeah.
But the authority is beyond
white
human.
coats.
It's metaphysical. And so within the world that we live in today, that metaphysicality is found within science. It's found within people who claim to know how the world works, how microbiology works, how metaphysics work, etc. And so, yes, I do think that within the paradigm that we live, which is very centered on a very human understanding of the world and what goes beyond and what is understood, that is what Fauci is drawing upon. Because the God of our age, there are plenty of gods of our age. Lust, technology, war is always one of them. Lust is always one of them. Envy, greed, all of these are backed by deep darkness. But the primary one of this day is science, which is why we will get into a conversation about the scientific understanding of alien seed theory in a future episode, which is why we will dig into these ideas, because Dr. Fauci and all of I can't name a lot of scientists because they're a bunch of nerds. Why would I know their names? But that's why these people are able to appeal to authority, appeal to science. But I think he's a good one. But they're able to appeal to something that seems as though it's more than human. It's more understandable, true, factual than just the human experience and perception. And they're able to use that to get what they want done. And I think that Dr. Fauci uses science in that same way. I think that man, even though he plays a part of the concerned citizen, of the concerned scientist, of the concerned doctor, at the end of the day, he is most concerned about him making a name for himself. And being able to use something that seems metaphysical to many to make his point.
Dr.
So
Fauci,
I don't know if all of that made
his
sense.
name will be
but-
remembered as the doctor of death. He has caused more people to die in nursing homes alone. He's caused people to die in hospitals alone. He's caused young people to commit suicide. He's caused people who were alone and were trying to get their lives back together, who lost their jobs, to fall back into drug addiction and overdosing and dying. And he's caused suffering amongst those people who lost those people. I fucking hate that bastard. And I hope that maybe he has an accident and something awful happens that keeps him from talking anymore.
And it's like when I think about someone being a witch, I think about them being able to use their will to interfere with other people's lives.
Yeah.
And like that to me, like people who exercise that kind of like, first of all, he's not even a politician. He's not even a politician. He's just a guy that they appointed to be like, oh, guy in white coat, please tell us what to do. We're so stupid. Please, priest of the white coat, tell us what to do.
Right.
Well, they
And
placed him in that position because he will say and do what they want him to say and do. That's why he is there.
Not to mention,
And if it weren't him, it would be someone else.
Right. I do think that this is a very apt conversation because I haven't listened to Vin Armani. I haven't listened to the people who talk about magic and all of that But having this conversation has led me to what I just talked about. It wasn't something I realized before I said it.
Mm-hmm.
These are people who are using witchcraft, who are using magic, and they're not looking to the beautiful things that nature allows because God put it in nature, right? They are accessing the gods of the age. And I would say, yes, the way you're talking about it, the way Fauci acts, the way he decides he's going to control other people is very occultic.
I
It's
just thought that's what his memory
secret
is.
knowledge.
Everything I just said. I hope that he goes down in history as being the mass murderer that he is.
Yeah, and I
Worse than Hitler. Worse than Stalin.
if history
I actually agree
contends-
with generational gap. I don't think that'll be the case. I think so many people are like snowed by the illusion. And like
Right.
sometimes those illusions get broken, but very rarely. And I mean,
Well, and let me just say, I think you're right. I think that right now he's not going to be remembered factually. I think he will be remembered with propaganda. I think he will be remembered narratively because that's very strong. When people talk about magic, there is that aspect we talked about, but there's also the power of the narrative. People respond to narrative. They respond to story. They respond to beauty. They respond to morality, all of this.
archetypes.
Right. At the end of the day, what we're looking at is people who have been propagandized. And that's the truth. There are look at the history of the church, look at the history of freedom. The people who made us free were not looking at appeals to authority.
Yeah.
They were not, I mean, if anything, they were searching for the truth. And so I think the masses are taught to appeal to authority. And that's where we are.
And you can't seek the truth if you appeal to authority.
Right.
That's not what the authority is designed to do. The authority is designed to establish power.
Right.
And that's not the same thing as finding the truth.
And I think that the truth, and this is an honest understanding of my own, it's from what I've read from my different disciplines that I've studied, that I've looked into. You find truth. You do find truth through story. You do find truth through narrative. There are things that touch you in just a way that you know that it's true. Because as the Bible says, the law is written on man's heart. We know what is right or wrong.
I have this saying, the truth rings. You can hear
Yes.
it rings.
And
I'm
all
glad to hear that's
truth,
backed up in the Bible.
and all truth is God's truth, regardless of where it comes from. And it leads, as Romans 1 says, it leads to God. I think that is my understanding. But I think that story is necessary, narrative is necessary. But at the end of the day, it comes through relationship. People do not find the truth through forced understandings, through forced teachings, through mandated actions. When people find the truth, it almost always comes through relationships.
Yeah.
It comes through shared meals. It comes through example. And so that's what this show and what I am about is telling the correct story, is telling the story that leads people to freedom, that leads people to goodness, that leads people ultimately, I hope, to God. But if that's not your journey and where you are, that's fine. I hope you find it, but I want you to stay here no matter what. But beyond that, I think that what we live for, what Jessica and I do this show for, is to find the hope in the darkness. It's to find the light that peeks through the very few cracks in the cave that show us what is real rather than what is in front of us. And so, Jessie, let me pose to you the question that I ask everyone at the end of every episode. What do you think at this moment in history, at this moment in the narrative that we're living, is a white pill? What is the story that we can tell ourselves, that we can see and recognize, that points us towards hope, that points us towards joy, that points us towards winning against the enemy, that is very clear to us, but almost no one else? what brings you hope. And it doesn't have to be corporate. Like I've said this before, but it doesn't have to be statewide. It doesn't have to be giant acts of the government or cultural things. It could be something in your personal life that when you see it, you go, I can win this.
I think when I look at my kids, they're not just going to accept, like my kids already know, like to just start asking 1,000 questions. I think that's always a good thing. Children ask questions all the time. It's natural. And then we try to shove that down and stop them from doing it because it's annoying. But I think we should try and just let them keep asking questions. And and just be real. If you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. But the biggest white pill is probably people like Cam who just keep having babies. Because let's be real, the people that are quote unquote enemies.
Kaylee has all the
They're
babies.
not having babies.
She does. I do think let me say I do think that there is wisdom, and I'm not saying I'm wise. It's mostly Kaylee, because if she wouldn't let me climb on top of her, none of this would have happened. But there is wisdom
more to the
in
birth, the giving of the birth. But right.
But there is wisdom in outbreeding the enemy. There is wisdom in creating even if it's a tribe, because a tribe is just a family that's grown. A nation is a tribe that's grown. We have the ability, like, Abraham did back in Genesis. Like, I don't know of any specific men that became whole nations besides him, but we have the ability to create people and to teach those people to be good, to be moral, to be just, to tell the right stories, and to fight for what is good. And if we're not doing that,
let your kids have their personalities and
right,
foster it. Like my kid losing his mind over bananas and telling me to how dare myself.
Yeah. Let's just say that
hilarious.
Let's just say if the banana isn't breaking the bag, it's not big enough.
So you just gave me a white pill, Cam, whether you realize it or not. And
I hope so.
I wonder if I can actually formulate this in the short time that we have before we end here. But when you look at the overarching arc of history and how we are the children of the children of the children of the children who had decided to adopt Christianity as a worldview in the first place, the overarching arc of humanity has only improved. Our state in the world, the amount of people living in poverty, the values that we hold. Something that historians talk about a lot is if we had a time machine, we went back in time just 200 years, we'd be shocked at the amount of violence that was just open and accepted in the streets. Just rape and violence and terrible things that would shock us to our core, because we have become different than our ancestors in that way. And they have given us a legacy of these values, which we have been building upon for many generations. Yeah. And so in that way, we've been building these tribes, and this whether you're Christian or not, we sort of all kind of hold these Judeo-Christian values of peace
and let's just
our
say
neighbors, feeding the elderly, things like that. And
that's biblical.
Made humanity better. Yeah. And it has,
that's biblical.
It made us better people.
Because in Genesis, God told Abraham that he would bless Abraham in order to bless the rest of the world. And that has come through Jesus and through enlightenment. Well, maybe I don't know about enlightenment. There's some weird crap that came out of that. But there was a lot of stuff that's led to the point that we are, where there is less violence. Mm-hmm. There is less horror. There's been more horror in certain cases, but that's been when people have walked away from those concepts.
Sure.
So
and
I do think
we don't live in an overpopulated world. Let me just say that
that's
too.
Nonsense.
That's a bunch of bullshit. And me and Maddie are definitely going to be talking about that in the next month. We're going to have some experts talking to us about overpopulation and the myth behind that. That's why I say have babies. We have just have be happy. The key is just be happy and spread that joy. You don't have a legacy if you don't have children, if you don't pass it down to someone, and I know that there's some families or some women who can't have children, and that's totally fine. like you have nieces and nephews to pass that down onto, or you can
Right.
adopt and pass that down. It's just about like passing on a legacy, because when you die, that's it. So what do you want to pass down? Or do you want to just like die alone? You know?
Generations
Nobody wants to
before
do
us-
that.
The generations before us had a very clear sense of those that would come after them. And I don't see
High
that in
time
our
preference.
generation. Right. And I want to see us understanding that we have to plant trees that we will never sit in the shade in.
Yes.
You know, that's very important. Not to
And
get
that-
too philosophical.
Well, and you're right. I think that is a conversation that I have a lot without saying it exactly that way, because I advocate for living in freedom. I advocate for a lot of things. One of those is Jesus, but I advocate in freeing yourself, freeing your family, and creating something that outlives you, even if it's not connected to your name. Regardless.
Freedom, what people don't understand about freedom is because they think it's this like open chasm, which something awful will fill.
Yeah.
And people fear that, and they say freedom is scary. The reason that there's the fear of the open chasm is because it's there. That's a real fear. You have to fill it.
Yes.
You have to put what will go in the chasm there. Freedom does not mean an empty chasm. It means responsibility. Terrible, terrible responsibility. Responsibility for your own safety, responsibility for your own survival, where you can't farm that out to the state anymore. That has to land on you. And if you die, that's on you because you didn't survive. And that's a terrible responsibility.
And it's a responsibility. Yeah, and it's a responsibility that, if chased correctly, yields joy, yields prosperity, yields
capital
people
wealth.
following you into something better. And so, yes, I do think absolutely having children, raising them right, loving them, teaching them how to be is the ultimate white pill outside of, for me, resurrection. So with that, we've hit about 2 hours and 16 minutes. If anyone's listening now, they're very invested in us. So I will say thank you now, Jessie, for joining me. Your official first episode on the show, which is, it's been too long. I get busy. I'm sorry. And let me tell you, April is absolutely freaking stacked. There are guests and things that we have set up for April that people don't know about, and it's going to be beautiful. Before we hit, I want to name everything where they can find you. I want to do all of that. But before that, I want to remind people that this coming Tuesday at 10 p.m., March 23rd, we're going to talk to Thaddeus Russell. And you know what? I made a video that I think is pretty badass. I want you, when you listen to this, think, I need your answer, audience. Do you think it sounds more like a steak commercial, like a steakhouse commercial, or a car commercial? But I want you to watch this because I'm excited. We get to talk to Thaddeus Russell, and when there's someone that I'm excited about, I make a video, dude. And that doesn't mean I'm not excited about the other people. But let's watch this. Tell me what you think. Steak or Ford commercial? This is America. Rebellion is in our DNA. Defiance is our resting bitch face. This country wasn't built by the well-respected and the elite. It wasn't stodgy old men and Puritans that created this beautiful hellscape. This country was built by hookers and scalawags. It was built from the bottom up, and culture is created in the margins. For some reason, when I invited Thaddeus Russell to come on the show, he said yes. Join us as we talk to the man who bucked both the system and the WASP-approved narrative to bring us the renegade history of the United States.
Yeah. I don't think that sounds like
I don't
either.
think it's either one. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Shit's amazing. What are you talking about? You're on mute, Cam. No one can hear you. You look like you're accepting your crown at your beauty pageant.
Sorry about that. Well, and that's the thing. Like, the way I hear myself is not correct. And I know that because I've edited a lot of audio and I've read things and I've done things like that. I forget which video it was, but I did it after state commercial for sure. You're right, generational gap. I think for sure. I think for sure we're talking about a nice ribeye with just that perfect pink, medium rare in the middle. But I know that I don't perceive myself the way that it is until I get to the point where I listen to other people that I'm editing. And I'm not saying that those people are bad, but it's like you really start to question your voice until you hear your voice and how you do things compared to other people. And it's like, oh, wow, you know what? I'm not terrible at this. But state commercial, I take that as a compliment. Jessie, I shouldn't have waited until episode 80 to have you on, but thank you for coming on. Well, she's been on live streams.
Yeah.
But I have been so busy. And I know that sounds like just a shitty excuse, but I'm very happy. Oh, that is not even close to right. You get to guess. My middle name is a Friends character. So.
Oh no, it's not the one I'm thinking, is it?
Probably. If it's the worst one, yes, you got it right.
So it's Chandler? There's
okay.
Your middle name is Chandler.
No. Chandler is not the worst character.
No, Chandler.
No, the worst character is Ross. That dude's a piece of shit. But
yeah, he kind of is. He kind of was.
But like I said, Jessie, thank you for coming on. If you want to find Jessie, you can find her all over the internet. If you want to find her on Instagram, her and your girl Maddie control the Voluntary Vixens Instagram. Just type in Voluntary Vixens. You'll find them. On Twitter, it's swapped around because they couldn't quite get the
somebody
name.
Took it from us.
Bitch. Right?
I know. Kill them. Just kidding.
If you go to Twitter, it's Vixens Voluntary, and it's usually Jessie that tweets. So that's how you get to her. If you want to listen to her show that I edit every week lovingly and with great care, you can go to voluntaryvixens.com or literally any podcatcher that you like. Mm-hmm. Have I covered everything besides the Patreon, which I could not tell you
that you
what
don't
that
want them
URL is?
I think it's just Vixens_voluntary for Patreon.
Yeah, just search for it there. I'm sure you'll find it. But beyond that, like I said, thank you for coming on. If you want to find me, just type in on Twitter at Cam Harless. Fuck Instagram. Don't look for me there. I mean, you can message me and I'll see it, but God, I just hate that app. So at Cam Harless. For Jessica, I named her Soup Can. It's a dick joke, and she didn't know that, but we ran with it. So if you want to find her on Twitter, at Soup Canarchist. And you can find our website at We Are the Mad Ones, or join our little community of assholes at themadones.locals.com. Also, here's the deal. We have shirts. I make shirts almost weekly where I'm like, this is a good idea for a shirt. You can find them on Amazon, but I will put a link to our logo shirt because I think that that's pretty tight. I think it's Amazon, so I make almost no money from these. But you know, if you want to rep, I want you to be able to rep. So that's where it is for now. And beyond that, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would help us out. But in the future, you'll see this in the outro. You'll see all the people coming. But to tell you we have the one and only Alex One, aka Acid Ropazy, I don't know how to say his name on Twitter, who wrote the Wood Chippers Go Burr song right after the Cuties fiasco, coming on next week. The week after that, we have Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee. And then we have my boy, the guy you saw in the comments, Mr. Iowa ANCAP, the week after that. And I'm excited to say this for the first time. Week after that, we have Mike Brancatelli, the Brank, from previously Part of the Problem, and now Mike Brancatelli. It's going to be exciting. That's all I have to say. And don't forget that Thaddeus Russell episode. I swear to God, if you guys don't show up and just harass me in the comments. I will be so mad at you. But with that, like I said, Jessie, thank you. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate
Thanks,
you.
girl.
And this conversation went from giant vaginas to God, and it was an interesting journey. And Jessie, I don't think you can understand how much I appreciate you, and I need you to know that.
I think I did a pretty good job of replacing Ryan.
Well, I mean, it
Of
doesn't
me
take much.
replaced the man today. Just so you know.
You just don't have to. If you just don't sing Creed or talk about the Snyder cut
You won't
of
have to worry
Justice
about that.
League, yeah,
That's a good thing. That's a great thing.
but beyond that, we're signing out. So as always, maybe Jessica will remember her little bit at the end of this. We'll see.
Oh, I have
But
a bit, don't I?
you do, and you forgot about it. So we'll see.
Every
If you don't do
time.
it, that's fine. But my bit is live the life you want to live, how you want to live it. And if anyone tells you any differently, tell them to go to hell.
Oh, and stay mad, bitches! Woo! I've had a lot of liquor.
That was the wrong one.